It's not Johnny. Johnny's not the one. Let her go. I was like, where's the gap? Where's the gap, sis? Hello and welcome back to my channel, Vamps, and if you're new, welcome. Join the Vamp squad if you love everything reality TV commentary, because we are about to dive in to Love is Blind season 5. So right off the bat, I must say I was enjoying this cast from episode 1. Everybody's energies were up. Everybody seemed very excited to be on the show, and it also felt like a lot of people had spent time watching the show, so then they knew what to expect in terms of like how to be on camera, how to act on camera, because in the girls pods we saw like a lot of high energy. Everybody was cheering, everybody was having a good drink, a good time, and then even on the guys side too, like everybody was bonding and really getting pumped to be a part of the process. And I love to see it, because I feel like if you're gonna be on reality TV, really be on reality TV, sell it, give us a good show. So I'm not gonna spend too long on the full cast, because I felt like there were some people that really stood out, and then there was like majority that actually never got any camera time. This is the female cast and this is the male cast. So one of the main cast members that we kept seeing was Lydia. And I immediately thought something is going to go down with Lydia this season, because why is the camera people spending so much time with her? Why are the editors making sure that she's in almost every clip? So I was like, I'm going to keep my eye out for Lydia. So we see Lydia go on a couple of dates, and she's very high energy. She's full of like personality, and I'm like, whoa, this girl is a lot, even for me. I think I'm more of like an ambivert, so sometimes I can get along with people that are high energy and I can have a good time with them, but then after a while it starts to drain you, and I'm so sorry, but Lydia is one of those people, because she started off very hot, and I thought at some point she was gonna like, you know, just have some more chill moments, and that never came, and I got so exhausted. I was like, please girl, give us a break. The first connection we see Lydia make is with Milton. They're on a date, and Milton asks her a few questions about herself, like what does she do for a living? She says she's a geologist, and then he mentions that he's an engineer with a passion for rocks. So they immediately hit it off. Sorry, he looks like a Milton. I'm gonna need Milton to ditch that beard and that hair. It's not doing him any favors. He said he was 24, and I was like, and you're what? Come again? Because it's giving a 45-year-old father. And from there it felt like Lydia was kind of hitting it off with some of the other guys as well. We see her talk to Izzy. They have a date. They're both from some sort of Hispanic background, and so they both speak a bit of Spanish, and it was fun to see them interact. Izzy describes that his insecurity is being bald. I was like, what is he talking about? Like, I know a lot of women that love bald men, that love guys with like a beard and a bald head, maybe even like some stubble. Like, Izzy, please. We love a man with a bald head over here. So we see Uche and Miriam. They finally get a chance to speak. My ears kind of perk up, and then I start to like hone in on any like specifically black couples, because I'm just looking to see, are we gonna have another Brett and Tiffany? So Uche is asking Miriam some questions, just getting to know her, general questions. And I do not know what is up with Miriam. She's acting like if she is a secret agent, like if she's doing some top secret work, because everything she was saying was so incoherent. It was not making sense. I was trying to follow along, and I was like, she's lying. Why is she lying? So then we see him start forming a connection with Aaliyah. They go on a date. Aaliyah and Uche seem like two very different people. Aaliyah seems very like artsy, very go with the flow type of person, and Uche seems very type A, very perfectionist, very like almost like he has a stick up his ass. So I was just wondering, like, how are the two of you guys going to like connect? And I mean, opposites attract, don't get me wrong, maybe they can have something there, but I was just really confused. There were times where like Aaliyah would say something, and Uche would make like a comment that kind of seemed like it was a joke, but at the same time I wasn't laughing. I felt like he was being very serious, and every time Uche came on the screen, I'm sorry, it gave me the ick. I had barely even known him, and I was just like, I don't know if I like this man. Now we meet Johnny. When I met Johnny, I was like, I think she's kind of cute actually. Like, she kind of has that very demure look about her, and I was really interested to see what kind of personality she had, because I almost felt like she was giving school teacher. But Johnny then says that she's a lawyer, and I was really interested to see what connection she would make. So she starts hitting it off with Chris. Chris is a project manager and they're about the same in age. And I was like, I like this dynamic together. I think that's very secure. I think that they can have a bit of a joke together and stuff. I was liking it. She also started to have a little thing going with Izzy. We learn a little more about Izzy with Johnny. He actually explains to her that he grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and that meant like he didn't get to celebrate any holidays. He didn't celebrate birthdays. And so like his childhood, he felt like he kind of missed out on a lot. He said there was one time where he was invited to an Easter egg hunt by his neighbor, and he went over, he got his sack, he was there participating, and like his father, he saw his father from across the fence, and his father's face was livid. Like he was so angry. He came, he grabbed up Izzy, and like he basically like embarrassed him in front of everybody. He told Johnny that like he was so upset, like he left the house and he went over to his cousin's house, and that's where his cousin basically told him like, that's not even your real father. I just felt like that was a really sad moment for Izzy. And I guess Johnny felt like, oh, he's confiding in me about this, like that means that like we're really building a strong connection. So then we meet JP and Taylor. JP is a firefighter, Taylor is a teacher. And Taylor said that she really struggled with like her self-esteem in the past and loving herself, but now she is ready to give love to somebody else. Johnny and Chris, they're starting to make a stronger connection, and I think Chris really felt safe with Johnny. Like I said, like Johnny gives off very like, she seems so pure, but then when you would like see her interact with Izzy, I'm like, there's something here, there's something underlying. I feel like I know that type of girl that Johnny is. Like she's the kind of girl that you would take home. You'd be like, hey, this is Sarah May, she picks flowers and stuff, and then Sarah May goes to like the meth clubs and stuff. I don't know anything about Johnny, only what is presented on the show, but that is what she's giving. She very much seems like she has two sides to her. Chris and Johnny, they're having a conversation about their first time. Johnny says that she lost hers her junior or senior year in high school. And then we get to Chris, and when Chris is about to answer, like he really hesitates, and I'm like, did something happen? Like I was a bit nervous because the way how he paused, I just didn't feel good. And then he starts to describe how his first time went. He describes how he was a victim of SA. So he says that he actually usually tells people he lost it his junior year, but in reality he lost it when he went on a trip to Mexico with one of his female friends. And unfortunately, Chris describes the incident, and he says that he was peer pressured into doing it with his friend. I felt so bad for Chris because all this time he was telling people a lie about what happened, probably because he felt ashamed, and he also felt like there's this pressure on guys to always like want that kind of thing. And this was a moment that was very heavy in the show because I don't think we've ever touched on anything like that in the show before. I really felt like Chris has a lot of love to give, and he seems like a very caring person. So let's get into this Izzy and Lydia breakup, because I was cackling the whole way. I don't know where she thought that they had a connection, but it was quite evident he had no interest in her. At least Izzy was quick to tell her like, yeah, nah, let's wrap this up because I have other connections to go and make with some of these other women in the pods. On to the end of episode 1. Che and Aaliyah, they start to form a connection. They start to go on more dates with each other, and as their connection grows, you know, they start to want to know a little more about each other. So Uche asks Aaliyah, have you ever cheated on somebody? This question was asked last season, where Amber and Paul, Amber had said that she was in a relationship and she had gotten so close to cheating. Paul actually saw that as a red flag and he didn't want to date Amber anymore. So here we see Uche asking Aaliyah if she had ever cheated, and Aaliyah says, yes, I have, in my relationship 2 years ago. Aaliyah says, well, you know, I wasn't getting my needs met. I had expressed this to my partner several times. Nothing was changing, and so that is when I cheated. Uche really comes down on Aaliyah, like the way how he talks to her, like she had just murdered people. I was like, okay, he has either been cheated on before, or he has been a cheater. So I was waiting to see where this conversation was going, as he goes on to reprimand her and tell her, like, you know, why didn't you say anything? The only reason why you didn't say anything was because you felt guilty and ashamed, and you didn't want to say to your partner, well, hey, I cheated on you, because you didn't want to go through that guilt and shame again. Uche actually drops the bomb that he has cheated before. And he says, I cheated when I was 18 and it was just a kiss. So that's really not the same thing, but it's both cheating. And if you stick to the mantra of like, once a cheater, always a cheater, then Uche, somebody would look at you and think you're always going to be a cheater. Whether it was just a kiss, whether it happened when you were 18, if you had met somebody that felt like once a cheater, always a cheater, they would have probably been like writing you off because you have shown that you've cheated. So for him to be on this moral high horse and tell Aaliyah that how he's basically better than her and how this really makes him question her as a person and even call her a recent cheater. He was like, oh, so you're a recent cheater. Like, the fact that he put recent before cheater, he knew exactly what he was saying, because he's trying to make sure that she understands that they are in two different categories. He is an old-time cheater, but she is a recent cheater, and those are two distinct and separate things. I don't know how that man came to that conclusion. Uche would be a good Bajan man here. He would make a good Bajan man, I telling you. I also wanted to say that the way Uche reacted was like he was projecting his own guilt and shame of what he did onto Aaliyah, and that's why he has such a strong reaction. But also, let's talk about the way Lydia was reacting and how she immediately sprung to comfort Aaliyah. I was like, for somebody that you just met, why is she all in your face like that? This is weird. This is weird. Does anybody else think this is weird? But I just felt like the way how intense like Lydia was being towards Aaliyah was just so odd to me. Like, y'all just met and it's okay to be friends in the pods, but the way how she was like, I see so much of myself in you, I see myself in you. I'm like, I don't know you. I just met you yesterday. Episode 2, I actually don't have many notes for episode 2. I think that was kind of like a filler episode. But let's talk about JP and Taylor first. I actually really liked seeing them together. I thought that they were very sweet. As they start to get a stronger connection, Taylor asked JP about like his family life and stuff. And that's where we see JP start to break down immediately. He explains that he did not have like the best childhood. He says that his mother was actually very mean to his sisters, and like she would yell at them, she would come in and trash their rooms, and he would always have to be the one to come and like comfort his sisters and stuff. But he recognized that his mom was like that because she didn't want her daughters to be with a man like their father, because she did not have the best relationship with their dad. He was not the best guy. She was just trying to steer her daughters away from anybody like that. And it can be understandable for a mother to really be like trying to look out for her daughters in that sense, but it sounded like it was very, very traumatic. But he said that things are better now. So picking up from the end of episode 1, where we see Uche basically call Aaliyah the biggest Jezebel that ever Jezebeled across the face of the earth. He comes in and he wants to apologize to Aaliyah. He explains to her how he did not mean to make her feel ashamed and how he appreciates her honesty. And Aaliyah tells him, well, you actually made me feel really bad. You made me feel like I can't really confide in you and say like how I truly feel, because I'm gonna be like judged for that. And she also says like, you made me feel like you didn't want to be with me anymore. Aaliyah actually says like, you said things like, how do I know you're not ever gonna do it again? He then questions her. He's like, did I ever say that? Did I say those things? And yes, you did. You did. You said all of those things. But after he sincerely tries to apologize, Aaliyah accepts the apology and they decide they're gonna move forward from this. Don't get me wrong, you have every right to not want to be with a cheater. Somebody that you know has cheated in the past, you don't have to be with them. But for him to come down on her like that, especially after he had also cheated, that was my issue. That was my problem with him. So now back to Johnny and Chris. Chris tells Johnny, I love you and I can picture a future with you. And Johnny says, oh. She says, I can also picture a future with you, but she does not tell that man that she loves him as well. So I think, like I said, Johnny has two types of personalities that are, I think, sometimes can conflict. Because on one hand, she wants stability, she wants security because of coming from the ex with addiction. But then on the other hand, she wants like fun, she wants like the wild side. And during episode 2, we get to see a lot more of Izzy and Stacy's connection. I felt like they were very similar personalities, very similar energy. And it was funny to me how Johnny was gravitating to Izzy, because I didn't get the impression that Izzy was really particularly interested in Johnny like that. And if he wasn't feeling her all that much before, he definitely was not feeling her after she confessed to only being in love with the guy who passed away from addiction, not even her own husband. So rounding up episode 2, we see Johnny finally make a decision on whether it's Team Izzy or Team Chris. I personally felt like she should have chosen Chris, because why wouldn't she? Like, Chris is so cute, he's so attentive, like he really cares about her. And I was like, she would be crazy to choose Izzy. And she's crazy. I told you, she has two personalities. But we see Johnny reject Chris, and Chris is very polite about it. He's like, you don't have to stay. And as she leaves, she tells him like, I'm sorry and stuff, this wasn't easy for me. And I mean, people typically say that, but like, you know what you wanted, just leave, like don't try to add anything to it. And we see Chris have a moment where he's a bit down and he cries and stuff, and I'm like, Chris, there's gonna be somebody out there that's gonna love you. It's not Johnny. Johnny's not the one. Let her go. Episode 3, we get JP and Taylor. They finally meet in person for their proposal, and Taylor was not impressed. Queen of Love Yourself was not impressed with JP. She wanted blonde, nice teeth, and then she realized that JP had a gap, and she was like, oh no, this cannot do, send him right back. And I was like, what gap? I didn't even see it. Like, they were showing, like, as soon as she mentioned the teeth thing, they were showing like scenes kind of close to his mouth, and I was like, where's the gap? Where's the gap, sis? I know, like, we all have our preferences, nothing is wrong with that, but I just felt really badly because she was so like, oh, I don't care what the physical is like, I'm gonna love you. And then when she sees his physical, she's like, did I say that? Did I really say that? Did I mean that? Like, I don't know if I said that. And the thing that was so funny was, like, JP was all over Taylor. Like, when they met, he kissed her immediately, he embraced her so tightly, and I was like, I really want to see how this goes, because anytime people have an issue with the physical appearance, whenever they get on like those like pre-honeymoon kind of things, it never goes well. We've seen it time and time again. Now to Uche and Aaliyah, and this is where Aaliyah is talking about like the weird things that she likes. There were times where like Aaliyah would make a joke or she would say something, and Uche's response would just be like so off to me. I cannot put a finger on it. If you guys have any like input on how you think Uche is as a person, please leave it in the comments, because as I keep saying, like, something about that man gives me the ick and I cannot quite put my finger on it. We actually don't see a lot of Lydia and Milton in the second episode, but then we get a bit of them in the third episode. And here's where Milton explains that he actually has scoliosis. Like, he was playing basketball one day, he came down badly, his back was hurting, and he thought, oh, nothing of it. But then he went and the doctor said, like, you have scoliosis, you have to get surgery. He went to the surgery. He said it was actually very painful, and when he had met with his family after, he really wanted to cry and stuff, but he did not want to show that pain. Lydia's just like, you know what, don't worry about it, I'll be here for you. And then he talks about how he thinks he's gonna die early, he's gonna die young. And I was like, Milton, where are you going with this? Milton had me. He had me good. I was like, where are you going with this, sweetie? He's just like, oh, statistically speaking, guys who are as tall as I am don't live as long. And Lydia's like, don't worry about that, I'll be there for you, I'll be there. And she's so intense with it. If I'm being honest, I don't think I could really be with a person like Lydia. Like, she would exhaust me. There was a point where she actually tells Milton, like, can you stop speaking so I can speak? Like, Lydia, you speak enough for everybody on the show, please give us a break. we get to the part of the show where I'm like, all the drama and chaos I've been begging for, I've been craving, finally comes to a head. Because this is where Izzy and Johnny finally get some more time to talk after Johnny has basically broken up with Chris. So they're in for their date, and Johnny's telling Izzy, like, you know, I broke up with my number 2. And Izzy's like, okay, that's nice. That man was not reacting in any way that made me think, like, yeah, he's willing to be with Johnny. And from the moment, like, Johnny was about to break up with Chris, I was like, this is a huge misstep on her part, because I knew Izzy wanted to pick Stacey just based off of the way he said Stacey made him feel. Johnny is in with Izzy. She tells Izzy that I broke up with Chris because being with him would have been like being in my old relationship, and I didn't want safe, I didn't want that kind of dynamic. I wanted fun, I wanted like excitement, and that's what she felt like she was getting with Izzy. Even though Johnny was pining after Izzy and she was pouring out her heart to him, Izzy finally breaks up with Johnny, and I could not cackle any louder. I was like, that's what you get. Because you fumbled the bag. You fumbled a good man like Chris to go and be with Izzy for what? What about your dynamic with Izzy was so much greater than what you had with Chris? Izzy explains to Johnny that unfortunately he has a better connection with the other person in the pods, and that's where he's gonna go. Johnny gets back to the ladies' quarters, and she's in there gossiping with Renee and basically saying, like, man, they're gonna break up any minute. They're gonna break up as soon as they get out into the real world. It's so shady how, like, they're gossiping right there, and Stacey can probably hear them, and I am dying, because as much as Johnny looks like a really, like, nice person, I don't really think she's a nice person, you know. And it's funny because I had put out something on Twitter. I was like, have you guys watched the episodes yet? Because we need to talk. And somebody DM'd me. I was like, she's a discount Katy Perry. And I was dying because now when I look back at her, I was like, yeah, she does actually look kind of like Katy Perry. So now it's time for Izzy and Stacey to really solidify their pair. Izzy basically says to Stacey, like, how far along are you with the L word? And Stacey's just like, you mean like love? And Stacey's just like, let's put a pin in that, because I'm not so good with being emotional. And I'm not surprised that that's how Stacey is. She kind of comes across like that, to be honest. Like, she likes a good joke and stuff, but she does seem like that type of woman that actually isn't going to be very, like, lovey-dovey towards you. And that's what Izzy wants. Izzy, like, thrives off of, like, compliments and validation from others and, like, sweet nothings. Stacey was not really giving him that kind of energy that he wanted. He could have gotten that with Johnny, but he chose Stacey instead. So then we see Johnny start to make her move. This is where everything starts to come into play, because Johnny is now like, well, I've now been broken up with after I broke up with this guy that, like, worshipped the ground that I walked on. So what am I gonna do? You know what that woman does? She goes and she gets herself Chris, and she goes and she talks to Chris, and Johnny pops up just like her name say. There's Johnny. Your parents could not have chose a better name for you, Johnny. That's all I'm gonna say. She pops up with Chris, and she basically tells Chris, like, you know, I've given it some thought, and really, like, maybe you're the type of guy that I should be with. My past relationships, I've not had, like, the security. And Chris comes away feeling good, but he's a bit skeptical. And I'm glad Chris was skeptical, because I was like, I hope you're not gonna play this guy that has been nothing but good to you. Chris goes into the men's quarters, and he actually asks Izzy, like, what do you think about this? And Izzy was all too ready to spill the beans. Izzy was like, but she actually told me the same thing, but in reverse. She told me that you're the type of guy that she usually goes for, but now she wants something different with me. Somebody fun, somebody exciting. And then Chris is like, oh that's interesting. And Johnny is caught in her lies and deception. And I was like, girl, what are you doing? I know everybody sees her for the not so nice person that she is. Oh, this is too good. This is the TV that I wanted. Like, the Ultimatum. I don't know if you guys have seen the last season of Ultimatum. I didn't even bother to review it because it was giving nothing. But this season of Love is Blind, dare I say, has been one of the best. Like, it's just been so good. Because let's get into Uche and Aaliyah again. Like, can that girl catch a break? Because she gets into the pause with Uche once more, having their date, and everything is going well. Until Uche says, hey Aaliyah, I actually have something that I want to tell you about in the spirit of honesty. My good sis cannot catch a break. So in the spirit of honesty, he says, it's nothing major. I just feel like I have to share this with you. And you know what he has to share with her? He proceeds to tell her that he actually dated someone that's here in the pods. He has dated them in the real world. And Aaliyah is just like, what? And then he goes, it's Lydia.
Julian.
The same Lydia that has been comforting Aaliyah through everything. Looking her in the eyes and saying, you are just like me. You and I, we are so similar. We are all these things. It is that same Lydia he has dated in the past. And Aaliyah's world crumbles once again. That woman is stumbling out of the pods crying. Give that woman a break. But hold on, Uche is not finished. Uche then tells her that he does not want her to tell Lydia any of this, but he has been telling Milton, you don't have to get married. You don't have to get married if you don't want to. The man that is so big on honesty, he is telling Aaliyah not to say anything. I don't think that that's very honest of him. And he is also hindering Milton and Lydia's process. I mean, I don't know how genuine it is, but I don't think that he should really be telling Milton that, given the situation. She gets back to the pods. She has a talk with Lydia, and that's where Lydia unloads everything. Lydia then proceeds to tell Aaliyah what car he drives, the name of his dog. That girl even told her that the dog pees whenever she comes over because the dog is so excited to see Lydia. And then she drops the biggest bomb of all. Even after Aaliyah has said, you know what, I don't want to know too much. You know what she does? This woman says that she and Uche actually slept together 3 months ago. This is why you leave these kind of men alone. So Uche explains to Aaliyah that he and Lydia dated in the past. However, he doesn't see anything there. They're not really like on the same page. They're not compatible. And he feels like, you know, let's just leave it in the past. Aaliyah's like, well, I'm stuck in here with your ex. I did not plan for this, and I'm actually not happy about this. Why did you not say something sooner? And he's just like, you know, well, I didn't think that it would be, you know, that big of a deal. And the thing about this is that Lydia was actually ready to like continue dating Uche in the pods, which would have defeated the whole purpose of the experiment. And Uche is like, yeah, we can't do that because like that would not like work for the experiment. So as we finally wrap up that complete mess with Lydia and Aaliyah, we see Izzy finally propose to Stacy. Stacy comes back to the girls' quarter. She's like, I'm engaged. And Johnny, with her bad mind self, was like, yay, so happy for you, great. And I'm like, you could have just shut your mouth. You could have just not said anything. Because you look worse doing that than just not saying anything at all. Like, we bundled Irina, Micah, even a little bit of Jessica into one person, and that's how we got Johnny here. We see Johnny immediately starts bad talking Izzy. She's like, oh, he had a bad credit score, he just took out a mortgage. And I'm like, you look pathetic, because that was the same man you were running behind. Stacy and Izzy, they finally meet. It's a pretty okay meeting, like nothing was out of the ordinary to me. I'm just interested to see how their dynamic shifts into the like pre-honeymoon kind of phase when they go on like the resort and the villas and stuff. I'm really waiting to see what happens between the two of them there, because I feel like they had a very surface level connection, and now it's time to see if that can translate into the physical world, if that can translate like emotionally as well. I'm just very interested to see. Chris finally meets back with Johnny, and he tells her like, yeah, I'm gonna have to be selfish and choose myself. And I'm like, thank goodness, Chris, you have some sense. We jump back to Lydia and Milton, And there's a part in me that really feels like Milton is on this show for the completely wrong reason. Milton is 24. Why are you here looking for marriage? I kind of felt like he didn't want to get married after he saw like how the process was. But Lydia was like, I'm leaving here with a man. I'm from around the way. I'm leaving here with something.
So now we're leaving. I'm leaving here with something. I'm from around the way. I'm leaving with something.
And so we see Milton finally propose to Lydia. I'm just like, boy, what are you doing? If you like it, I love it. Next, engagement. We see Uche head into the pods, and of course the only possible person he could be proposing to is Aaliyah. And I'm waiting with bated breath because when last we checked, like, Aaliyah was going through it. My good sis was going through it. So we were waiting to see what was going to happen there. So Uche comes in, he sits down, he has his books there, and we pan over to the other pod and nothing. We see nothing. We see no one in the pod. Pan over to the pod again, nobody's there. Then this voice goes, unfortunately, Uche, Aaliyah has decided to leave the experiment. And that is where the episode ends, and I am like, oh my gosh, this is so hot. I am looking forward to these next couple of episodes. Let me know what your predictions are for the couples. If you think some of these couples are gonna make it past the honeymoon phase, or if you think they're gonna break up before they even get to the altar. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you think anybody's gonna leave the honeymoon phase like before time is up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Join the Vamp Squad if you are new. I think this is actually shaping up to be like my favorite season.